Hi guys, welcome. March and April bring such amazing new reawakenings with spring blooms everywhere, the warmer weather, people want to get out, people want to enjoy it. We have basketball tournaments and softball tournaments and baseball tournaments. So much fun to get together and enjoy. So your crowd comes together and they're going to be hungry. So what are you going to feed them? In this video, we are going to put together a menu that will make all of your fans happy. I'd like to welcome you to my backyard Kentucky homestead. My name is Kim. If you like really good food, please hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. So let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to make is pulled pork barbecue. It's a Southern favorite, but it is just a crowd pleaser no matter what. Potluck, watch party, whatever it is. People love it. So what we are going to need is a crock pot pork shoulder roast. I've got about 4 pounds here. We need Worcestershire sauce, some barbecue sauce, some mustard, apple cider vinegar, avocado oil, and brown sugar. Then we are also going to want to chop up 4 cloves of garlic and a large onion. So I cut the top and the bottom off. I'm going to cut it down the center, peel the skin off. And these onions had started to grow a little bit. They're still usable. I'll just take that little center bit out. And then I probably don't do this the right way, but I do the way that works for me. I'll cut it the long way. And then I will cut it this way. And when I get to that point there, I'll flip it over so that it's got the longer area this way and my knife is not close to my fingers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the flat of the knife against the garlic. Just hit it with the back of my palm. Keep your fingers away from the blade. This is a Misa knife, not sponsored. Extremely sharp. First time I used it, I cut my finger. It was pretty bad. Holy cow, that onion's strong. Okay, make sure all the paper is out, and then we're just gonna chop these up, dice them up. And when I'm cleaning the knife off, just as a safety, I always go that way, so I'm never coming across or up to the knife. Should be pretty good. Okay, so I have set the crock pot on high to get it running. And the first thing we're gonna do is I'm using avocado oil, but you can use any neutral flavor oil. I'm going to put about a teaspoon in the bottom of the crock pot. I had previously frozen the pork butt in food saver bags. I took this out the day before yesterday so it would thaw. And given that we are dealing with pork, I will sterilize these before using them anywhere else. And then we're going to need about 1 cup of barbecue sauce. We're just going to guesstimate. With something like this, you can really just guesstimate. So we're going to do about a 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar, which I will measure just because of how acidic and tangy it is. This will help the meat break down and become tender. So I forgot to mention, we're also going to use about a 1/2 cup of poultry. This is a turkey broth that I made from scratch and canned. So we're going to use about a 1/2 cup of that. We need a 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. And when you measure brown sugar, what they usually say is to pack it, which means you want to squish it to where it's solid. You would never do that with flour or other sugar, with granulated sugar, but you almost always want to pack brown sugar down. The recipe I'm using calls for yellow mustard. I'm going to go ahead and use honey Dijon mustard to give it a little bit of a kick. So we're going to add 1 tablespoon of mustard. And we'll just do 2. That'll be good. This is not like baking to where it has to be exact. I'm going to do about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. in our onion. And our garlic. Oh, that smells good. Where I am using multiple pieces of meat, I want to go ahead and make sure everything is well coated. Just turn it around a bit. Get all the good stuff mixed up. There we go. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and start this on high, but then in about an hour, I will turn it down to low. So we'll cook it. If you do it on low the entire time, you're going to do 10 to 12 hours. If you do it on high, you're going to do 5 to 6 hours. So in about an hour, I'll turn this down to low, and then we'll probably go somewhere around 8 hours to check it. It will be done and ready to use when it falls apart. Okay. So it looks like the pork is done. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. Pull off any large fat pieces. And I am making this ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the fridge for the evening once it cools down completely. And then we will reheat it for the party. I'm going to go ahead and ladle some of this juice back on top of it. And then we'll just let this cool completely, and then we'll wrap it up and put it in the fridge. For our next item, we're going to create a peanut butter bar that has chocolate on the top. This is something that they used to make at the school I went to when I was in middle school. It was delicious. So if you ever had peanut butter balls that are dipped in chocolate, it's very similar, but it's made in a bar. So it's faster and a lot easier for a crowd. So let's get started on that. So I'm going to be doubling this recipe. So I need 4 cups of crushed graham crackers. So we're just going to pop them in the food processor, pulse it, and get our crumbs. Okay, that looks good. And we are almost at 2 cups, possibly. Let's measure that out and see what we've got. I have melted 4 sticks of butter, so I have 2 cups of butter. And this is a double recipe. I need 2 cups of peanut butter. If you don't have any of these rubber spatulas, I highly recommend using them because they make it a lot easier to get into jars and clean them out. Scrape the sides of a bowl or pan. Let's finish the ones that we have open first. Okay, so it's 1 cup. I'm just going to guesstimate the 2nd cup. That's about what I've got left in this jar. We have 2 cups of peanut butter. We're going to mix that together. And the recipe does say to use just a regular creamy peanut butter, not a crunchy or the natural that separates, just for textural reasons. Could probably use a whisk for this, but I really don't want to dirty something else. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is add in powdered sugar. And since we're doubling it, we're going to add 3 cups of powdered sugar. That's 1, 2, and 3. Given the light nature of powdered sugar, we're going to be very careful when we start stirring and just be very, very slow and gentle with it. Next, we're going to take our 4 cups of graham cracker crumbs and gently fold those in. And to fold something in just means that you're going to basically come out from the bottom, turn it up to the top. I'm also going to rotate the dish each time I do that. Sure, we got everything in the center, off the bottom. Okay, that looks good. So the next step is going to be to put it in the dish here. To do that, we want to go ahead and put some parchment paper below it so it's easy to pull out. And to make this easier to put into the pan, I'm going to go ahead and crinkle it up. And we're just going to go ahead and dump this in. We want to flatten this out so it's a smooth, even layer. So for the chocolate topping, we're going to mix 3 cups of chocolate morsels. You can either use semi-sweet or milk chocolate, and a half a cup of peanut butter. A quarter of a cup. Maybe a little extra. And then we need 3 cups of chocolate. We're going to pop this in the microwave. 30-second intervals, stir it in between. Because chocolate melts very quickly, and you don't want to scorch it. So it's 2. Perfect. 3. Couldn't have done that if I tried. So this is the first run through the microwave. I did it about 60 seconds. Just to get it started now, I will do 30-second intervals. Just go ahead and get it mixed in. Spread it back out, and then we'll pop it back in for 30 seconds. It's getting really, really close. I'll do it for another 15 seconds because it is very close. Yeah, that should do it. The residual heat will just continue to melt those last little bits. As we stir, it'll smooth out even more. All right, looks looking pretty good. There's just a couple little bitty pieces. Just a couple of little bitty pieces, but I think that's good. We're gonna go with that. So bring this back over, and then we are just gonna pour this on top of it. And then we are just gonna spread this across the top so it's even. Get a little fancy zhuzh. That should do it. Now we're going to set this in the refrigerator for 90 minutes at least, and then we can take it out and cut it. You could leave it overnight before you cut it, and then it will stay fresh for a few days in the refrigerator. So enjoy. Okay, for our next dish, we are going to make macaroni and cheese. And the first thing we need to do is bring a pan of water up to boil. And I'm also going to add a generous pinch of salt for the pasta. The salt in the water will help keep the pasta from sticking together, and it will also season it. So the water is boiling, so I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 pound of penne. Stir it for a minute. And then we're going to bring it back to a boil and cook it for about 10 minutes. Once the pasta has finished, we're going to go ahead and drain it. And then we're going to let that sit there while we make the cheese sauce. This is the same pan that I cooked the pasta in. I'm going to measure out 1 cup. About 2 cups of milk. I usually guesstimate this, so I just put 2 cups of milk in there. I'm gonna go ahead and add pepper. And then I have a variety of cheeses. I have Swiss Gruyere, some Gouda, and a Parmesan Romano Asiago blend. Handful of each one, sprinkle it around. At this point, I'm probably using about half of the package. So it would be 8 ounces of cheese plus maybe another 4, so about 12 ounces of shredded cheese. So we're about 12 ounces of shredded cheese altogether. And one thing that I like to do, instead of using a spoon to stir something liquid in a curved pan, is to actually just use a spatula. It cleans the bottom of it much easier. So we're just going to keep stirring this until everything melts and combines. Also going to put 2 tablespoons of butter in to help it emulsify better. And with anything dairy, you want to definitely stir it continuously because it will scorch very quickly. Okay. So it's pretty well broken down. I'm going to go ahead, mix in the pasta because we are going to put this in the oven. So it'll continue to melt all the way. I'll go ahead and get everything coated. So I have a glass baking dish, which I've sprayed with avocado spray. And we're going to just pour the macaroni and cheese. Mix that all around. And then we're going to finish it off with just a little bit more cheese on top. Okay. So put that in the oven at 375 for about 30 minutes, and it should be good to go. Since we do have a fairly heavy entree and also a fairly heavy side, we're going to do 2 additional sides that are lighter. The first is going to be a Caesar salad. We're going to cut up a romaine head here and wash it. And then I'm going to give the option of salad dressing for either Caesar salad dressing or blue cheese. I'm going to take the outer leaves off that are not very good. Cut the end off. Cut it in 4. Try to make it a little easier for people to eat. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill it with cold water. Whoa. All right, let's try a little bit less. There we go. Well, that took a minute. So I'm going to lay this out on a clean towel so that it's able to dry. So we will let this dry before we put it in the fridge because we'll be serving it tomorrow. And I'll be mixing it with the rest of this Tuscan blend. And then the guests can just choose what they want to put on it for dressing. So we're going to do a simple fruit salad. We're going to do pear, apple, banana, and orange. And in order to keep the bananas, pears, and apples from turning brown, we're going to go ahead and mix a solution of about half orange juice to 1 part orange juice to 1 part water. The ascorbic acid in the orange juice will help prevent the fruit from turning brown. So go ahead and wash these. You could, if you wanted to, go ahead and peel these, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep the skins on there. I'm going to go ahead and take out the center and then scoop out that core. Could also use a spoon to get the core out. And as I add more into, I'll get a spoon. This knife is extremely sharp. That's better. Take that. For the last bit, we're going to go ahead and put some oranges in there. Okay, there we go. I did have some strawberries to put in here, but they went bad really fast. I just got them this weekend, like day before yesterday, and they're already bad. So can't put this in there. Anyway, we'll leave this sit for a little while, and then we're going to put it in the fridge, and we'll serve it tomorrow. For the final recipe, we are going to make classic Toll House chocolate chip cookies. We're going to use the semi-sweet mini morsels, as well as some pecans. So let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is mix our dry ingredients together, which is going to be 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So the first thing we need to do is mix our dry ingredients together. And it's going to be 2 1/4 cups of flour. That's 1, 2, and 1/4. Need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Just to make sure that that's broken up, I'm going to go ahead and just squish it. Okay. Don't want to get a bunch of baking soda in a bite. That would suck. Then we need 1 teaspoon of salt. So then we're just going to mix this up. Make sure everything is well distributed around there. We're going to set that aside. In this bowl, I have 2 sticks of soft butter. Just put it in the microwave for 30 seconds just to soften it. Then we are going to add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar. Don't know where all my measuring cups are at this point, so I'm going to use 1/4 cup, so we'll just use this 3 times. And then we're going to add vanilla extract. And then we need about 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And a little bit extra. And this is homemade vanilla extract. It's delicious. And then we are going to mix this until creamy. Just make sure that we have everything. So we have 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 sticks of butter, 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar, a generous teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then we need 2 large eggs beaten one at a time. It does make it easier to mix in egg if you go ahead and break the yolk. That way it's not running around your bowl on you. So that looks fairly well incorporated. So we're going to beat the flour in gradually. So just a little bit at a time. And when you first start, you want to be careful because it'll just poof up and go everywhere. Just make sure everything gets well incorporated. And make sure you're scraping the bottom to get any of that flour that might be down there off and mixed in. Right. So that looks good. So next we're going to stir in the chocolate chips and the nuts. So this is a full bag of chocolate chips. And then we're going to put in about 1 cup of chopped pecans. it gets a little tough here. Ugh. Make sure everything is incorporated. To finish these off, we're going to just go ahead and get a little scoop, put them on the cookie sheet, and they will spread out, so you want to give them a little bit of room. So we're going to bake these in the oven at 375 degrees for 9 to 11 minutes. So the food went over great. People enjoyed it, gobbled it up, very little bit, if anything, left over. It was a success. I will link the recipes in the description below if you're interested in making them yourself. And also check out my playlist for the other recipes that I've done. We'll be adding more and more to that as time passes. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you join me on my journey. We're going to be looking at gardening, cooking, and food preservation. So please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoy these recipes, and I will see you next time. I hope you have a very wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.